What's up, freak bitches, wherever you may be, however you may be watching? Thank you for giving us just a little bit of your time. Sorry for the late start, but I had to get a few things together. There will be no hetero life mate Jeremy tonight, but I am joined by the Dowager Countess, Lady Cora. How are you doing tonight, ma'am?
I'm great. I'm liking the heat. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I've always been a much bigger fan of, I've always been a much bigger fan of heat more than cold. I don't understand why, but I grew up in California. Maybe it's because I can deal with the heat a little bit easier. But yes, definitely much better than anything cold weather can give us.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, plenty of stuff to talk about. Not doing any reviews or anything tonight, but a couple of important and interesting news things to talk about. And I want to start getting to talking about more of the movie news stuff, not just doing the typical stuff that Jeremy and Cora and I do. But there, again, interesting stuff. Now, the first thing that dropped today, and this is a movie that has been long in development, long rumored, long talked about by so many people, but nobody was ever sure if it was actually happening. But some set pics were dropped today, and now apparently it's in the works, and this is proof. What you were looking at on your screen right now is set pics of Harrison Ford on the set filming Indiana Jones 5. Now, these set pics themselves, Cora, are not necessarily a big deal. They don't give us anything about the plot. The primary thing behind them is that the movie is now actually getting filmed, which is the one thing a lot of people thought was probably never ever going to happen. Just looking at some of these set pics, what are some of your thoughts?
It looks awesome. I saw some of the pictures of that where they were using a stunt double that was holding a almost like a Harrison Ford head that he slips over before he does the filming. Evidently, there was a motorcycle accident which set them back a day. The stunt guy was okay. There's night photos of a train that has like a Nazi swastika on it, and there's it looks like some action stuff, like very Indiana Jonesy traditionally. I love that they have well, it looks like a lot of thought into it. Like the costuming looked good. I used just a few set photos, but I mean, the lighting was amazing in that one picture of the train. I mean, if that's just somebody who's standing there, I mean, they're doing a pretty good job making it look really nice.
Yeah, it's some of the things are kind of interesting to me. For one, we're getting the classic Indiana Jones look, which I like. I
Yes.
don't want them to. I mean, we're used to seeing him kind of being in uniform in a way every time he goes on one of his adventures. So if he didn't dress kind of in that usual garb, I'd probably be a little upset. But he looks like he's going out doing what he's always done.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing is, and you talked about this video that's online about, and maybe you can put a link to it. I don't really want to use anybody else's stuff on here, as I'm afraid of the algorithm or somebody at YouTube getting pissed at me. But if you want to go ahead and put the link out there, you can. There's a Twitter post out there that shows some video of a
I
train,
find it.
obviously an old school train with some of the Nazi logos and everything on it, pulling away from a station. The clip's only about 10 or so seconds long. There's not really anybody in it. It's just a picture of the train. But it says to me that it's probably going to be a little bit of a flashback to some of the things that we've seen
Yeah.
previously. Or maybe not some of the things we've seen previously, but some of his prior adventures that he's had. Because we're way beyond the
Mm-hmm.
Nazis. I mean, if this is actually happening in some kind of a timeline continuity, we are now going to be, I would imagine, somewhere in the early 60s,
I
maybe
don't
late
know.
50s. Yeah, we don't really know anything about the movie yet, so when it takes place, we don't really know. But I would imagine that since we're pretty much done with the Nazis at this point in the storyline, that this is probably some kind of a flashback thing that is happening. But yeah, that is kind of curious. Again,
And
the subtext.
they're filming in Europe, which is interesting, in Yorkshire. And it's exactly the same location where they did some filming for the new Mission Impossible movie just weeks ago. So there's this videos of Tom Cruise in the same fields just a few weeks ago. So it must be a really great location.
Well, there's a lot of filming that gets done in that area of England. That's actually where it's close to where Pinewood Studios is, which is where they film a whole ton of stuff from Marvel. I know they
Oh.
filmed a lot of like the James Bond movies have all filmed at Pinewood. They get certain tax breaks
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that for filming in England. That's why England's a pretty popular place to film. But I mean, and on top of that, I mean, a lot of the stuff takes place in Indiana Jones takes place over in Europe somewhere. I mean, it makes sense that he would be in England. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
again, not much to be taken from these, except for the fact that now apparently the movie is actually happening. Are you?
Yeah.
What is your level of excitement for this movie? Do you have one?
A lot. I love Indiana Jones movies, and when we spoke about it before, I'm really hoping that it kind of has a nice little bow ending, perfect little ending for, Harrison Ford's character, and however they bring the franchise forward, or maybe they'll leave it dead after this. I don't know, but from one article I read, he was just there to film at the end of the movie, and he wasn't a part of the whole movie itself. That could just be, a fake thing. I don't know, but I'm a big fan of that Mads guy who's from Hannibal, and he's going to be in it. I don't know anything about the other people who are in it, I'll be honest. But I love that he's in it. Even if it's for a short cameo, I'll fucking take it.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say what's up to the chat. Penny the Pooh started things off. What's going on, Penny? Bry Guy, really mysterious in here as always. Chris Skywalker, what's going on to you, my man? Who else has been in here? Cora obviously is in the call. Chris Skywalker.
Bullsey was there.
Bullsey is in here right now. I think Nightwatch just popped in. What's going on, Nightwatch? I think
Yay, Nightwatch!
I think he just finished up one of his streams. David Capiz, what's going on, my man? Good to see you. And also, we actually have a new subscriber now I think about it. It's Melissa Zeiler. Thank you for coming and joining the show. I don't know why it's not playing these things now. Alexa Studio
because it hates us.
It does hate us. There it is. It just played it. For some reason, I can't be in studio mode and show your camera and play donations. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'll figure that shit out eventually. But yeah, here's some thoughts that I have about this right now. Number one is, it's got the director. Usually when a director leaves, it's not a good thing. But when the director that leaves is Steven Spielberg, that's kind of a bigger issue. But the director they got is Nick Mangold. Now, Nick Mangold is the one that gave us one of mine and Jeremy's absolute favorite movies ever in Logan. Which to me is probably top 3 comic book movies ever made. Not to mention it was a damn good film. So it's got Nick Mangold involved, and I dig that. Now, it's not that Steven Spielberg doesn't have anything to do with the movie. He is heavily involved. He did have a part in the script. I think he is still listed as a producer, and I don't think this is one of those honorary production things. I think he's actually going to be around, because this is one of the projects that he's always been involved with from near the beginning of his career.
Like his baby kind of thing, a pet project.
It is one of those things that he's always kind of had a hand in. It's a very personal thing to him. So I would imagine he's still heavily involved, if not directing. So there's a lot of cool things about this. The one thing that worries me about this is Harrison Ford's going to be almost 80 when this thing drops. When this thing finally hits the screens.
Yeah.
Assuming it's going to hit the screens because they're filming it. Now, I don't really know if again, we don't know a whole lot about the plot and what's happening in the movie. To me, one of the things they kind of did pretty good in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was they did write his character for his age, which I thought was kind of an important thing to do, because when a guy is in his mid-late 70s, he can't friggin' hit the whip around the telephone wires 2 stories up and swing from building to building to go save his dad. He can't get into some of the fights that he used to get into. If you make it look kind of ridiculous, you're going to take away from the movie. Even if it's a good plot, even if it's a good story, even if everything works out well, it's going to look a little ridiculous. You know what I mean?
So do you think that's why they had the why am I breaking on it? The guy who takes his place, stunt double, wearing a mask that makes him look like Harrison Ford? I mean, because even doing some of those things, you're like, I don't believe that at his age he would do that. But maybe they're trying to make him look younger in the movie than he actually is in real life.
Stunt doubles are stunt doubles. As much as he liked to do his own stunts in the first 3 films, even he's got to know that he can't do some of those things now. I mean, he's like 70.
Right, but is it believable, though? Are they going to try to make him seem younger in the movie than he is in real life?
I don't know. Again, a lot of it depends on the story. We don't really know what's going on yet. Here's one of the things that I think is kind of interesting, and you guys let me know in the chat if this makes any sense to you at all. We talked, a week or two ago in our Indiana Jones franchise discussion about the fact that the second Indiana Jones movie, The Temple of Doom, was actually a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Here's my question. Could this movie could they do the same thing? Could this movie actually be a prequel to the last movie that we got, to the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
I love it.
That's a question that I have. I don't know. Because that could be a device that they use to try to explain why his son is not
the
around
Nazis
yet
are
because he
a
hasn't
top
met.
part of it.
Maybe he's still dealing with some Nazis. Maybe the Nazis are still around. The problem is if you want to try to use the Nazis as a bad guy again, you don't just have to go to like to do a prequel of the fourth film, something that happens between the third and the fourth film. You also have to go back to around the time that the third film happened, because after 1945, there really is no more Nazi. So you kind of have to go back to that time period. And we're already 30 years removed from that time period. You can't de-age this guy who looks 70, who is 76 years old, I think, right now, 77. You can't de-age him down into his 30s. That's not going to make any sense to me at all.
I have a theory. So what if this whole, what they're filming now with the train and the body double wearing the Harrison Ford mask is all like one backflash scene? Like, you know, where he's remembering something that happened, but then the rest of the movie will be at his present age, long past the years of the Nazi. Like, for some reason, like, he's flashbacking to this one time period.
Yeah, it's got to be some kind of a flashback. That's the only thing that makes sense for having that train in there. I mean, unless you want to do some, like, I don't want to call it alternate history, but unless you want to do some kind of thing where there is still some faction of the Nazi party that is still out there trying to do some shit. I suppose if you wanted to make it like that, that's fine, because you can play around with it a little bit without having to stick to what is historically known about what was going on in that era around that time. But I really, again, we don't know anything about what this movie's about. All we know is it's going to have, you know, Harrison Ford's back. They've added Mads Mikkelsen as the bad guy, which is awesome, which gives me a lot more confidence in the movie. They added the one girl, I forget her name.
Me as well.
Yeah,
it is Phoebe Waller-Bridge, which I've never heard of her. I don't recognize her face. But Frank Marshall evidently is going to be one of the producers, and he's good.
That's not a surprise.
I don't know anything about this girl. She evidently won a Golden Globe because she has a picture of her holding a Golden Globe. So she is, you know, has some. She received a writing credit on a James Bond movie.
Interesting.
Yeah. So maybe she's just one of those random people that in Hollywood who's kind of multi-talented. She'll reunite with solo co-star Donald Glover for a TV reboot of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So evidently she's got a TV gig coming up as well. So maybe she's just coming up in the acting field from being behind the curtain.
Maybe, I don't know, but I don't know. I'm confident in some of the stars they've got involved in it. I'm confident that Spielberg's going to have an involvement, if not directing. I'm really confident in James Mangold. I mean, that guy's made a couple of really, really good movies. He's been doing it for 20 years. The guy's made some good shit. He knows what he's doing. So, I mean, I'm confident that this is going to be better than the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Am I confident that it's going to be good enough to fit into
be the better of all of them?
Not to be it doesn't need to be the best. It needs to fit. I don't need this movie to be the best. Now, I would like it to. I would like to leave the theater saying that's the best Indiana Jones movie I've ever seen. But the reality is, I just need it to fit. I just want it to work well with the character and all that stuff.
Do you care if they kill off Indiana Jones or just have him right off in the sunset?
I really don't
being happy old man.
I want him to live to be a happy old man. I know that Harrison Ford has always said that he wanted Han Solo and Indiana Jones to die in the movies. I'm like, why? It's like you want that, but the fans really don't. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I thought the death of Han Solo worked well. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen the movie. If you haven't seen it by now, it's your fault. But I mean, I thought that worked in the way that they did it, and I know that was probably one of his stipulations to even coming back to the franchise, was that Han Solo at some point had to die. And I like the way it was done. But Indiana Jones is a different thing. He's already lived through the opening of the Ark, which was melting people's faces. He's lived through the guy who tears out people's hearts out of their chest and then drops their bodies into a flaming pit of lava. He's lived through you know, the Holy Grail melting people who drink out of the wrong cup and shit like that. He's lived through interdimensional beings in Indiana Jones 4 and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull doing whatever they've been doing.
He's kind of been there. He's got the T-shirt.
Yeah, at this point, I don't want him to die when he's out there doing something, because I want him to just go ahead and live with these stories. I want him to be an old man like his father was.
Agreed.
And I don't really know what the plans are after this. I know they still kind of have this loose idea for a reboot. I don't understand why you can't have why you can't have Indiana Jones, rather, around for something, just to have around. You know what I mean? Let him ride out. Look, because I really liked the ending.
You mean have somebody else, like a Shia LaBeouf, not necessarily him, but somebody kind of take over the mantle of being the main lead with the same premise?
There's been this rumor that Star-Lord, Chris Pratt, was going to be playing Indiana Jones in a reboot that's been floating around there for like 4 or 5 years. I'm not against that, to be absolutely honest. I think that's a pretty good fit. He looks the part.
He does.
And if you think he doesn't look the part, go watch him in the Jurassic Park movies.
Jurassic Park movies.
He's kind of an Indiana Jones kind of character. He's got,
he even has a motorcycle.
He's got the charisma. He's got the dialogue delivery. He can crack the jokes. I mean, he may not have Harrison Ford's smirk, but I mean, come on. If that's the only thing he doesn't have that he can't carry over, then I'm okay with that. But
do you think they would play it off as him being a relative, or just completely like redo it as if Harrison Ford's version never happened?
I think if Chris Pratt were to come to do it, they would probably do a total reboot and go all the way back to like the 30s. Because I don't know if you can make Indiana Jones work from like the 70s on. You know what I mean?
That's what I've always wondered when I watch these movies.
Because who is he really going to go up against? I mean, there's not anybody like the Nazis to go up against anymore.
I don't know, Mexican drug lord.
Well, I mean, but as far as the context, of the character is concerned, it's like who could? I mean, yeah, there's stuff in Mexico he could do, but he already did that in what was it, the fourth
Crystal Skull,
the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. He already did Central America, so I mean, granted, I don't know.
I don't know, something about maybe the Great Wall of China. I don't know.
Yeah, but like I said, there's not a Nazi level bad guy out there for him to go up against.
All they have to do, Frank, is incorporate time travel. No, then he could go back to anything.
I will fling my own poo at the screen if that happens. I won't do it. I can't do it.
I knew you would hate that idea. That's why I.
No, don't write it off. It could happen. So they could decide to do it.
Like, he found, like, tied in with Loki, for fuck's sake. Oh, he has the Tesseract now. Jesus. He can do all...
Yeah, let's not. Still won't play donations for some damn reason, but really not impressed with Harrison Ford. Tips $1 and says, not a fan of Harrison Ford, but I'm a big fan of Frank, Jeremy, and the one and only Lady Cora. Thank you, Really Mysterious, for being so awesome.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. I mean, I never understood why Harrison Ford's picked his roles well.
Yes.
He's picked his roles well. I'll give him that much. But, look, and thank you again, Really Mysterious, for supporting the channel. We appreciate it. But, again, it's kind of hard to make any assumptions right now because we don't really know what the plot is. We don't know anything about this. All we're seeing is these pictures. So, yeah. So who knows? But, I mean...
From this one specific location, and there's going to be other locations and further filming that have nothing to do with this one spot. So this is just like, in my opinion, I think they're just filming a flashback or the end of a movie. Because they keep saying that Harrison Ford showed up just for like one small part of what they were doing. But that could all be, something to throw people off too. And what limited information that one person has.
Well, Harrison Ford has to be a significant part of this film. He can't just be like a cameo.
Does he though?
He does. You can't have an Indiana Jones movie that has Harrison Ford in it and not have Harrison Ford be the star.
You could, though.
You could if you wanted the movie to do terrible and get killed.
And that's unfortunately what could possibly happen. But
I don't think they're dumb enough to do that. I can't imagine anybody at Disney thought that would be a good idea. I can't imagine. I think Steven Spielberg would have actually said, no, hell no. I will not allow it to happen. I will not let this happen. And even George Lucas, who created the character, I don't know how much creative input he has on it, but I would imagine even George Lucas would have thrown some weight around and been like, we're not going to let you make Indiana Jones a side character in an Indiana Jones film. That's not going to work. How
much do you think they paid him to do it? Do you think he got a lot, or do you think he loves this shit and he doesn't really care about the money?
I don't know. It's probably a combination of both. I mean, maybe he doesn't need any more money. I mean, Christ, he's 150 years old. He's probably made all the money he's really going to make. I mean, he's got to imagine that the money for this that's going to be made on this film has probably got a little bit of a limit anyway, because the last movie did so bad and it's been so long since we've seen it and stuff
the
like
budget
that.
is probably not cheap. I'm sure they're spending a lot of money to make this.
I would imagine it's going to be like in the 150, 175 range. I don't know. I think when the budget's all said and done, now I mean that's not a small chunk of change at all, but I can't imagine they're going to spend Marvel $250 million making this movie. But I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, go down to the chat and let me know what you guys think. Do you want to see a new Indiana Jones movie? Do you not want to see it? What do you think the plot's going to be about? Again, we just don't know a lot about it right now. All we've got is some set pics. All I know is that he still looks good in the fedora. He still looks like Indiana Jones. In the jacket, yes. He still looks good. He fits the role. He better play a significant role is all I'm saying. Because if I go in there and he's in like the first 10 minutes of the movie and then somebody else kind of runs away with it, I'm going to be kind of pissed.
I'm worried. I'm worried that might be the case, but we will have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see. But hit the wrong buttons. I'm hitting all the wrong buttons. I'm screwing everything up. But yeah, that's some talk about Indiana Jones and the set pics. You guys can go check that out all you want. It's all over the internet. Just do a quick Google search. You'll be able to bring it up. Now, one of the other things that they came out in the last probably 24 hours or so. If you guys are fans of Rob Zombie, and I'm a fan of Rob Zombie's music, you know that he's also made a foray into directing films, notably horror films. A couple of them have been pretty good. A couple of them have not been so great. I haven't really liked him. Again, I haven't been a big fan of horror since probably the late 80s, maybe around 1990. That's when I think horror got really, really, really bad. What's going on, man? I see you in the chat. I'm doing pretty good, buddy. No baseball today, so I managed to start the stream at a decent hour. But there is some news that broke today. Now, I want to read to you a quote from Rob Zombie's Instagram, and I found this very, very interesting. It says, "Attention boils and ghouls, the rumors are true. My next film project will be the one I've been chasing for 20 years, the Munsters. Stay tuned for exciting details as things progress." Now, Cora, I don't know if you are a big aficionado of the Munsters. I don't know if you...
I loved the show.
I don't know too many people that aren't at least aware of the Munsters. The people who have actually watched them are kind of big fans of the Munsters. People like me. But this is the thing that... I have some concerns. It's like,
well, it's not just Rob Zombie. It's also tied into that Blumhouse who does the horror movies. I'm terrible with this.
No, Blumhouse is the other movie we're going to talk about. But
no, it's tied together. They're doing it with Rob Zombie.
I thought Blumhouse was doing the other movie, but it's here's my problem. Here's my problem is Rob Zombie. Like I said, I'm a big fan of his music. I've listened to plenty of Rob Zombie over the years, but he hasn't really been the best director. I mean, he made.
Oh, you're right. I'm wrong.
He made what is it? The Witches of Salem or the Ghosts of Salem? I think is that movie that came out a couple years ago, and that wasn't bad. I thought it was an entertaining movie, but the other movies he's made have just not really done it for me.
The Devil's Rejects, Halloween reboots, 3 from Hell, and something about House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah, it's a lot of people who are Rob Zombie fans love the movie, but a lot of people who are horror fans really haven't really gotten behind the movies. I mean, they've been kind of one-dimensional in my opinion. The ones that I've seen, they've been a lot of jump scares, a few one-liners,
I'll be honest,
and some crazy
I haven't seen any of them.
And some crazy shit, but they haven't really been good horror movies. You know what I mean?
Isn't he known for putting his own music in the movies too?
Well, the last movie he made, I forget which one it was. It was oh hell, I forget the name of the movie. But the last movie he made, he kind of released some music around the same time. He kind of used one to help promote the other.
Okay.
I'm not overly fond of the idea. I mean, it's a marketing idea, and to each their own. Go ahead and market your shit however you want. I just think that if you're doing that, you're taking the concentration that you should be putting on one thing to get it right. You're splitting it up between two things, and you may not be doing it right for either one of them. You know what I mean? I do. Now, if he wants to do a couple of songs for his movie, that's fine. I mean, he's a musician. Do all you want. But I feel like you need to make sure you put the time and the effort into it in the right spots instead of trying to do it all at the same time.
Agreed.
At the same time.
This seems like self-promotion overblown.
I have no problem with self-promotion. I have a problem with taking attention away from where it needs to be.
The project?
Yeah, because I mean, look, as much looking into it as I've done as to what it takes to make a movie over the last couple of weeks, it's like, look, even if you have all the resources like this guy has got, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort. It takes a lot of concentration. I mean, let's face it. To put together an average movie, I mean, it's like a 1.5-year process. And then when you talk about...
That's after you've written the script, by the way.
Well, that's the entire process, from getting the idea, writing,
really?
doing all the administrative stuff, just to get in front of a camera can be a 1.5 year or more of work. To say nothing of actually filming, post-production, editing, special effects, marketing, blah, 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 to do all that stuff. It just takes too much. It takes a lot of time. But
I bet it does.
But and to do an album takes a lot of time. I've never recorded an album, but I know that to do an album takes a lot of time. So when you're doing all those things at the same time, one of them is bound to lose a little bit. Is bound to lose a little bit of your attention. You know what I mean? But
I do. And David brings up a good point in the chat. Rob Zombie's wife, he's going to play Lily, and also the guy who, let me find the page, who's going to play Fred Munster, or excuse me, the original actor who played is Fred Gwynne, but the guy named Jeff Daniel Phillips, they actually look kind of alike. So I thought that was pretty cool, like a nod to the original actor from the TV series. Rob Zombie's wife, I don't know, she just looks, I mean, they're both smiling. It's hard to say they look alike. And then the guy who played the uncle, Al Lewis, evidently is going to be played by some guy named Richard Brake. Never heard of him. Or the guy who's going to play the lead, Jeff Daniel Phillips. But they look similar. I mean, that's something. These are all rumors, by the way. It's a rumored cast. Something's been, like, truly confirmed, I guess.
Well, here's one of the things that concerns me about it. First off, let me start with one of the things that actually helps me feel a little bit better about it. Number one is he is a big fan of the Munsters. He actually named his song Dragula after the Munsters coffin race car that they had in the show. It's actually a license plate that says Dragula on it. So that's pretty cool and all. As a matter of fact, I go to the thumbnail. No, you guys can't see the thumbnail. Never mind. But yeah, I don't know. I have it on here, but so he is a fan. So it is a passion thing for him, which means he's hopefully going to pay it more attention than he would most other projects. The thing that the thing that worries me is that...
Do you think it'll be funny and comedic, or is he going to go the serious angle?
That's part of the problem. As most recently we saw, what was it? Fantasy Island. They did a reboot of Fantasy Island. And that was not at all like the TV show. It was a very, very different thing from the TV show. Now, I respect them trying to do something different. But when you go back and watch the Fantasy Island with Ricardo Montalban and all that stuff that was on the 70s and early 80s, it was one way. And then they took it and just made it... They tried to go for a pure horror suspense thing. And not really an emotional, somewhat kind of comedic, dramatic kind of thing with the occasional bit of suspense. It's like they went because it was a soap opera. Let's face it, the original TV show. That's what it was. But if he tries to make it a purely scary thing, you're going to kind of go against everything that the Munsters was to begin with.
And the Munsters wasn't just. I mean, I like the sound of the show. The theme music, and then it was upbeat and positive and funny, and there was a laugh track when they made jokes, and I liked the funny aspect of it. I hope it's not something where they all turned out to be murderous people and kill all their neighbors or something. I don't know. It could be weird. It could be good. That's
my concern. Is he's going to try to turn into a pure horror, and that's not what it's about. That's not what it is. For those of you who don't know... Well, if he's a big
fan, don't you think he might be true to the show, or does that not mean anything?
I think when people are trying to be artists more than they're trying to be true to source material, it's not going to mean anything.
Okay.
I know that some people, and I've seen it in movies all the time, they try to take this thing that already exists, and it's a good thing, and they try to make it their own, which is one of the things I really hate it when artists try to do, especially singers. They try to make it their own. I don't want you to make it your own. Somebody else wrote it. Somebody else sang it originally. I like it that
something
way.
New.
If you want to do your version of it, fine. And if I like it, great. If I think it sucks, fuck you. I don't hear your shit because you tried to make it your own. It's not your own. You're doing something that somebody else already did. Now, for those of you who don't really know much about the Munsters, and I would imagine there's some younger ones of you in the chat that maybe don't quite have a good grasp on what it is. The Munsters was a 1964 sitcom about a family of friendly monsters who relocated from Transylvania to an American suburb. Let me put this speech up here again so you guys get a visual of what I'm talking about. The show ran for just 2 seasons, along with the similarly premised spooky comedy The Addams Family. Despite their brief runs, both shows have cast a rather long shadow over popular culture in the decades since. Let's see. Where am I now? I lost my notes. Satirizing European immigrants adjusting to life in the American suburb. The series reflected shifts in the current societal and political landscape. It starred Fred Gwynne, Yvonne DiCarlo, Al Lewis, Beverly Owen, who was later replaced by Pat Priest, and Butch Patrick. All of their characters pulled inspiration from Universal's classic lineup of monster movies. Obviously, you see Frankenstein, Miss Frankenstein, Dracula, whatever. You guys can look at that.
Yeah.
Now, this is not the first time that this thing has been approached for some kind of a continuation. The Addams Family, of course, was previously rebooted as a modern-day film in the 1991 and again in 1993 for a sequel. The Munsters spawned very good movies. The Munsters spawned a few TV movies with the original cast, and in 1988, a sequel series titled The Munsters Today, in which the family awakens decades later. It didn't go very far. NBC and Pushing Daisy's showrunner Brad Fuller also tried to reboot the premise as a drama under the title Mockingbird Lane, starring Eddie Izzard, Joey O'Connell, and Portia de Rossi. The series was scrapped, but the pilot eventually aired as a Halloween special in 2012. So they've taken a shot at this before. It didn't work.
Well, here's hoping that, yeah.
It didn't. Look, like I said, I don't mind remakes. We talked about this a week or two ago. Remakes are a necessary evil in Hollywood. They're going to happen, and they're not necessarily bad. I mean, sometimes you've got a really, really great story and stuff that maybe the special effects aren't really caught up to what they should be to help tell it. Maybe you didn't have the right actors available to you. Maybe the right director wasn't available. Maybe somewhere 20, 30 years down the line, you can get those things together and tell that story again, and it's going to work great. Sometimes you don't have to, in my opinion. Sometimes you just don't have to.
I wonder if they're going to have it be a period piece set in the back in the day when the show was original 60s, or if they're going to update it to be more modern, like a reality. I'm
okay with it being modern because let's face it, we need some funny right now. I mean, the last year and a half-ish has been pretty terrible for most people. We're finally kind of getting done with it little by little every day. I think we need something funny. We need a good blast of comedies, which is another reason why I'm concerned that Rob Zombie's doing this, because I don't know if he gets the comedy part of it. I'm sure he can, and maybe he'll bring in some writers and some other creative people who will say, hey, you need to try to make sure you're embracing the comedy and the kind of the ridiculousness of this whole story, not just, having some big guy out there with a flat top head tearing people in half and trying to re-image the Munsters. I just hope he doesn't re-image the Munsters into some kind of scary thing. Just go with the comedy. I mean, just look at
Don't ruin the Munsters.
I mean, look at this picture, for Christ's sake. There is nothing scary about this picture.
No.
It all says comedy. It all says funny. I mean, you've got Fred Gwynne there and his goofy grin. You got, Grandpa Munster. You got DiCarlo.
A loving and doting weird mother,
Yeah, They're an oddball. They're a family of oddballs, and the oddball family works great for comedies. You've seen it in everything from Roseanne to Malcolm in the Middle to whatever. All these odd people getting together in this odd family, and then things happen, and it's good. And then you have the blonde girl on the right, the kind of the straight-laced girl who's the only person in the family that isn't weird. I mean, it just works. It works that way in the comedy vein. If you try to turn all that around again, and I said this is one of the problems I had with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I tried to redefine the Indiana Jones character without showing us any of it. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know. And it was like you had to watch it to get any idea of where it was at. It's like it's like a love triangle. You never know who's going to end up with who. You just got to watch it and wait to watch it. Both actually. I
don't know, but again, I mean, like I said, fan of Rob Zombie's movies, not necessarily a big fan of of Rob Zombie's music, not necessarily a big fan of his movies. I don't really know. I'm indifferent right now, but I'm not hopeful. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
I really want this to be kind of awesome, but I'm not gonna hold my breath.
You're skeptical.
Yeah,
And that's kind of where I'm at about
I'm probably a
the
little
Indiana
more than
Jones.
skeptical, if I'm honest, about this anyway.
Now the question is, would you be willing to wait for it to come out on DVD or rent for $3 or pay full price to see it in the theater?
I'll go see it in the theater. I like the
Nick?
theater experience.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, that's why I'm trying so hard to support the theaters right now. But
Speaking of, yeah.
yeah,
It's good to go to the movies, people.
yeah, go to the movies. Excuse me, but I mean, I'll go see it in the theaters. I mean, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be happy about it when I leave. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
but again, I mean, it's Rob Zombie, whatever. Music great, filmmaking. He's got a ways to go as a filmmaker, I think. And I don't know if going after a passion project like this, especially a recognizable IP like the Munsters, especially one that could, honestly, I think in the right hands, this kind of property could blow up right now.
I think it'd be a great series again. Reboot it fuck on Netflix or Amazon Prime. Don't just do a movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that's what I would prefer. I think a TV series for me.
Again, to me, it's all about the creative minds behind it. I mean, I honestly, I think it probably does lend itself a little bit more to a series than it does to a movie.
Maybe that's just because it was the series. I don't know. I mean, Lost in Space, was a TV series and they did a movie. It wasn't, fantastic, but I don't know. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe it will get people to watch the Munsters original series again, which would be great because it's awesome. And a lot of people who are younger may not have even never seen it. So,
yeah, and on top of that, think of it this way: most of the people that watched the Munsters in its original run in the mid '60s, they're all in their 70s now. It's like so.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I only watched it because I love the oldies.
Yeah, so
oldie TV shows.
So you've got this guy Rob Zombie, who is not really part of that demo, trying to take an IP that they have loved their entire lives since they were 10, 11 years old, and he's going to turn it into something. What's he going to turn it into? Is he going to try to stay true to it? Is he going to try? Is he going to, try to? Is he look? Like I said, make it your own, put your stamp on it, but be mindful of what the IP actually is in and of itself at its core.
Do you think there's a hint of what he might do with it by the fact that they were supposed to start filming in Budapest? Or does that have no clue whatsoever?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. Look, this all just got announced yesterday or today.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows exactly what his plans really are? I mean, I'm sure at this point, the only thing he's got is something scribbled on the back of a pizza box or a cocktail napkin. So he probably doesn't have...
You don't think the rumored cast can be true? You think that could just be all shit?
Yeah, casting rumors so far out. Who the hell knows? I mean...
Yeah, that's true.
I try not to worry too much about casting until it actually happens because...
I'm surprised he's not trying to play... I mean, would you be surprised if he tried to play the lead himself?
No, I don't think he's an actor. I don't think he wants to be in front of the camera.
Okay.
I've heard him. I've read through in articles and stuff that said he doesn't really want to act. He does the stuff he does in his videos because he kind of has to, but he doesn't really want to be. He doesn't really want to be in front of the camera doing any acting or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Now he might do a cameo or something, but I don't think he necessarily wants to be a lead. I mean, because honestly, who would he play? I'm sorry, I can't see him as Herman Munster.
What about the uncle?
I can't really see him as Grandpa Munster.
Grandpa, excuse me.
I can't see him as Grandpa Munster. I don't know what other role he would play. Now I know the daughter, the blonde girl. She has a string of on again, off again boyfriends over the show, as I recall. So maybe he could be that. But I mean, it would be kind of funny to see her walk in at some scene where she walks in and she goes, "Here's my new boyfriend, Rob. He's got his own band called White Zombie."
Especially with his wife playing Lily.
Yeah, so he just kind of like rolls in. He's like, "What's up? What's up, Frankenstein?" That would be kind of funny, but I mean, as far as playing with a legit role, no, I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm not seeing it at all.
Well, I'm curious to see what will come about, and just talking about it, I think I'm going to try to rewatch The Munsters if I can find it on a streaming service.
I just realized I didn't have anything for Christine pulled up. But I do want to talk to you guys for a minute about another movie getting ready to come out. What are you saying? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't even know if I can get The Munsters on streaming service, but I'm going to try to watch it.
Honestly, you can probably just find random episodes on YouTube.
That's true. I don't even know how the series ended. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't think it officially had like a final episode.
Okay.
Because I don't recall anyway. Because I mean, back then they would just cancel shows out of nowhere, and that was it. And it wasn't as
Yeah.
big a deal as it kind of is now when something gets canceled. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I just realized I had my headphones on backwards too. I'm an idiot. But yeah, it's I don't know. Again, Rob
And it'll
Zombie.
probably be years off. Probably at least 2 or 3 years before, because if
You're
they're
looking at a
just
couple
doing the
years.
project, you think he's written a script already? I mean,
Well, I mean, there's nothing stopping anybody from writing a script. So he
Yeah.
could have been working on a script for the last couple of years. I mean, because
That's true.
he could even said in that quote, I've been thinking about this for 20 years. So he's probably got some stuff written down somewhere.
Do
Maybe
you
not a
think he
complete
just got like
script.
permission legally? Like he bought the rights or he got hired by somebody who has the rights?
I would imagine he probably got hired by someone who has the rights. I don't know if he bought them.
Gotcha.
But I mean, yeah, he might have some stuff written down somewhere. I'm not 100% sure, but
You know?
But that's not the only remake that's coming up. There's another
Nope.
remake that's coming up. This one is of a Stephen King favorite, and that movie is Christine. And boy, I don't know if Night Watch is still in the chat or not, but this might be something to interest him, of course. I'm still messing up, moving all my pictures around. Good God, I'm way out of
This
practice.
one interests me a lot because Stephen King seems to be a really big real estate for remakes and interest in movies because of his storytelling, magic. And I don't know what I don't know if you read this, but the guy who is supposed to be writing, he's actively writing the screenplay right now, Brian Fuller. This will be his directorial debut, and he'll write and direct this. And I had no idea that he was so diverse. He was a creator. He worked on either or created Hannibal, the series, Star Trek Discovery, and this cute show I like, Pushing Daisies. This guy has like a varied interest, it seems like. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does with it. And I was wrong before. This is the one that Bloomhouse Pictures is working with.
Yeah,
So
this is the
this
one.
is probably going to be quite scary, even compared to the first movie.
Yeah, I see Night Watch Zone is still in the chat, man. Tell us, let us know what you think of this one. Look, I'm interested. I'm interested in Blumhouse because one of the things that has been working for me with the horror industry the last probably 5-8 years is the Blumhouse stuff. I think they had something to do with that Fantasy Island remake that didn't go very well. But I mean, that's one bad movie in the midst of a couple that have worked out really, really well.
Yeah.
I'm skeptic on this one as well.
I mean, the original movie had a budget of 10 million and grossed 21 million. So even if they just mimic even just basic stats and just, make a little extra money off the top, it'll still be, bring some attention to some of these people and their projects and, maybe help the studio make something else. But I don't know. I'm curious. I don't usually like horror movies, but I like Stephen King stories a lot. So I'm curious, above all things, are they going to update the car or is it still going to be a 1958 Plymouth Fury?
Yeah, but that's one of the questions that I have. It's like, do you try to modernize it and make it like a new Mustang? I personally think that the look of the car is one of the things that made it so scary back in the day. But as far as I know right now, the project is still in the early stages as Fuller writes the screenplay. King's novel is set in the late 70s. About a 17-year-old named Arnie who fixes up a 1958 Plymouth Fury that naturally is haunted by its previous not-such-a-nice-guy owner, who named the car Christine. Soon, Arnie begins taking on the old owner's personality and appearance, and the car seems to have it out for his best friend, new girlfriend, and anyone else getting between Arnie and Christine. So we'll have to see exactly how that's going to go. The original movie was released in 1983 by Columbia Pictures. Let's see. It was directed by John Carpenter and written by Bill Phillips. It starred Keith Gordon, who was mostly a director now. He's directed a lot of TV and stuff. Lately, King's been on a little bit of a hot streak with this stuff. With a regular progression of adaptations, including most recently Lizzie's Story for Apple TV, which King has adapted and executive produced himself. This was first reported in Deadline, so you guys can find. I'll go back and put the links to all these articles that I'm using in the description. If you guys are watching this on replay, you can look for it yourself. But a quick Google search bar will bring up a lot of this stuff. I'm iffy. I don't know how you really modernize this without
Well, I will
taking
say
away a
there's
lot of the spirit of it. You know what I mean?
there might be some cultural evolution because I found an article that spoke about Fuller being on a podcast, and in it he hinted that he would maybe, I don't know, he was talking about Christine, the book and the movie adaptation, and he purposefully spoke of the gay subtext, and which revolved around a male friendship and non-human antagonist stuff. And so evidently, I didn't know this, but in other projects he's kind of used the shows to kind of talk about such things. And so some people are saying that he may, include like a LGBTQ type angle in his remake.
Why?
Because of his opinion of it being gay subtext in the book, in the movie.
His opinion may not be real.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it's interesting because if it's going to turn into like a potential SJW, like,
well, that's going to be a good way.
Shift.
That's going to be a good way to fuck this movie up.
Agreed.
Because I mean, look, I'm not saying that if you're going to make a film, don't put some of your own opinions in. That's fine.
Right.
There's a way that it can be done that doesn't turn me off as a viewer, and I'm okay with that. But if you're going to be obtuse and obnoxious about it, I'm sorry, you're not. It's not going to be worth watching. Look, this is one of the reasons why I didn't like Avatar. I mean, seriously, the entire movie is just one.
I never saw Avatar.
The entire movie, visually, the movie's stunning. It is one of the most visually stunning films I've ever seen. The story is pure shit. They wasted a shit ton of good acting by a bunch of really good actors. A great story opportunity, but it was just one 3-hour-long bullshit of James Cameron telling me that I'm bad because I'm not doing enough to save the environment. And it was annoying. It made the movie obnoxious. If that's what he's going to do with this movie, dude, don't bother. Just don't bother.
Yeah.
I don't want your... Look, for one, if you read some kind of a homosexual thing between the main character who you see on the screen right now, between Artie and his best friend, I didn't see that because I saw this movie. When did I see it? About 6 months ago. I stumbled across it and watched it, and I didn't get any kind of I'm jealous of this girl because he's stealing my best friend who I have a crush on. I didn't get any of that. There is none of that. If you saw that, good for you.
I did not. I've seen the movie and I did not. And so when I was reading this article, I'm not going to lie, my jaw kind of dropped. I'm like, please don't go this direction.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And so that's why I wanted to share it with you, because this will be a concern for me.
And this is one of
I'm
the
not saying I'm not supportive of LGBTQ. Let me be clear about that. But this movie has nothing to do with the politics and the cultural implications of that being part of our society. It's just a movie about a car.
Well, like I said,
and a guy.
If you want to throw your own thing in there, fine. But you got to be really, really careful about how you do it. If you make it overbearing and stupid and obnoxious, then it's going to turn people off.
Now, I wouldn't care if they made the main character a girl. That wouldn't bother me.
Well, I mean, do what you want to do. As long as if you get a good enough actress and good dialogue, and she pulls it off, then great. I think that could be fun. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with gender swapping if you do it right. But just gender swapping for the sake of gender swapping, you get Ghostbusters.
Yeah, but don't swap out the car for a fucking scooter or a Mini Cooper, please.
But that's the other thing. It's like this car, and I'll switch over again to this. It looks badass. It's like that car is it's like if you see that car driving around during the day, you think, God, what a killer fucking car. I love those old like 50s models cars. They look cool as shit. That's a great color. It's beautiful. And then you see it rolling around at night, it becomes more ominous. It's like if I saw that car rolling down the street real slow on me in the middle of the night, I'm like, might want to go run now. Might want to get a head start. Because that car's fucking beautiful. It's amazing. I don't think
it is.
Now, and I'm not a car person. I mean, so take this all with a grain of salt because I know fuck all about cars.
But if they make it a truck or a Mini Cooper or something that I don't know.
For one, if you make it a Mini Cooper, you may as well make it a pile of shit on wheels. Don't make it a Mini Cooper. I don't know that there's cars out there today that look kind of badass. I mean, the Mustangs look kind of badass. Like a Dodge Avenger.
Yeah, and
it's got like the sleek,
I was about to say
look.
the Dodge Chargers.
But nothing like this though. Nothing that looks
See, they have
quite
a cool
like this.
story angle option in that someone finds the car. like, and it's like in the bottom of like a garage, covered in car covers, and it's maybe even not even in whole, like it's in pieces, and they put it back together, kind of like in Jumanji where they find the game and get sucked into the whole thing.
Well, as I
So
recall, in the first in this movie, Christine, he actually finds it kind of like that, and that's also where the car kind
yeah,
of ends up. It's just in some junkyard
but that's really
again.
cool that it could be set up that way where someone found it again, the same car itself. Because otherwise, they're going to have to modernize it and use a newer car.
Yeah, Van in the chat says he has a Buick Century that has a mind of its own. We'll go on deadly random. Go on dead random and the computer would glitch and do random shit. They can use that. A Buick Century? I don't know if a Buick Century looks very badass either. It's kind of a
Well,
grandpa
depends
car.
on, if you put some aftermarket grill on it, and who knows.
I'm not going to lie. This is one of my favorite movie cars right here that you're looking at.
Well,
This car is
I'm
up there
hoping
with
that they don't.
It's up there with the DeLorean. It's up there with Kit. That car is just beautiful.
Well, if they make the car look like a pussy, I'm out. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's going to be a hard sell. I'm a little more confident because Blumhouse is involved, and Blumhouse has had way more hits than misses. They've done a lot to really reinvigorate the horror genre to kind of get it back to what's good about it at its core. But I don't know. I'm skeptic right now. But again, I don't know a whole lot about this director. He's done some TV stuff. It doesn't seem like it's been exciting TV. It seems like it's been more like drama stuff.
Yeah. It'll be interesting because it's his directorial debut. I mean, it can go good or bad. But, I mean, Brian Fuller, he's been a part of some really successful television projects. When I looked him up on Internet Movie Database, he'd been a writer primarily. So I don't know how well you would know better than I. Do writers transition well into directing usually?
Well, some do. Most directors started off somewhere. Some of them writing, some of them in production, some of them in CGI. Some of them started doing administrative stuff in production companies. Who the hell? Creativity is creativity. It comes from a lot of different places.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say that there's one place that has never put out a good filmmaker, but. But it's like a lot of filmmakers are really, really good at one genre or one kind of thing, and when they try to branch out and do something else, their sensibilities, the things that make them do this thing good, kind of work against them for doing this thing. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want Adam Sandler to come remake this movie. Adam Sandler's a comedian.
No,
he's great at the comedy stuff.
Yes,
but.
He'd be a great one to do the Munsters, by the way.
Now, you see, that makes more sense because it's ultimately it's a comedy. It's like 90% comedy and like 5% monster. But again, it's kind of a goofy thing in and of itself. At its core, that's what that IP is. This IP, Christine, is scary. It's pure horror from the golden age of horror that what I think is the golden age of horror. So you can't really. You can't just really hand this off to some guy who was one of the big writers on like One Tree Hill and be like, now go make me a fucking horror movie. It's like,
maybe Blumhouse picked this guy. I don't know. Maybe they liked his writing, and maybe he was maybe like Rob Zombie. For Munsters, he's a big fan of this book and this movie, the original, and he is really excited about the project, and maybe he wants to really break out as a director doing something he's passionate about.
Yeah, maybe he is. I'm skeptical.
Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
I'm cautious.
Skeptical.
I'm not cautiously optimistic, but I'm cautious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If they fuck up the car choice, I'll be like, nah, no.
That's going to be interesting. It's interesting how much of the way that this is going to be perceived before it comes out. It's interesting that the car choice is going to make such a big impact on that.
Now, do you think like Jurassic World, when they showed previews and movie posters, they wouldn't show you what the dinosaur looked like till you're like 20 minutes in? Do you think there's a chance they won't show you what the car looks like for like in the release of the movie to make you watch the movie to see what car they pick?
It's possible. It's a pretty smart marketing idea. It's been done before.
Yeah.
But again, we're gonna have to see. Because I find it hard to believe that you would even try to market this without having some kind of poster like you're seeing on the screen right now of the car. I
Maybe
mean,
so.
if you go look at the movie posters from this film from the original release back in the early '80s, it's like a lot of them have the car on it in some fashion.
Agreed.
So it would be very difficult to just have like the 2 or 3 stars of the movie standing there, and it's like, standing up against the wall of a garage, and like you see like the rear bumper of the car underneath the tarp, and
Or just like a zoomed in
Christine.
headlight shot or something.
Yeah, or Christine coming, summer 2023. I don't know. I don't know if you'd be able to market it too much without the car, but
I
the car
agree.
choice is going to be very, very important. I like the
We will
idea.
see.
I like the idea. I mean, like I said, we last left the car, Christine, back in the junkyard where Arnie found it, or Artie rather. I'm sorry, where Artie found it, and maybe it's just been sitting there for 40 years until some other unfortunate soul walks by and says, "Hey, this car looks pretty cool. I'll buy this from you for $100."
When you walk by, you hear it go boom, 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 like the
Yeah.
Jumanji box.
Yeah, something like that. The horn just kind of randomly starts honking to get his attention.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. I mean, there's lots of cool ways that it can work. There's a lot
Do you
of
think
really
they'll
stupid
change
things
the
that can happen
name?
that'll fuck it up. No.
Okay.
No. The name is one of the things you can't fuck with. I mean, it's Christine. You could talk to most movie fans. You just say the word Christine, and they don't think of like an actress. They think of the car. I mean,
Yes.
the car itself is iconic.
Well, it's like you say the name Katrina, you think of the hurricane, not people.
Yeah.
Anymore.
There's
Sometimes.
it has been burned into the psyche.
Yeah. Exactly.
But anyway,
Well, I look forward to this. I'm not gonna lie. I want to see what they do with it.
yeah, go down in the chat and let us know what you guys think about Christine. What were you gonna say?
Do you think it'll be telling what Stephen King says, whether he likes it or not?
Yes and no. For one, Stephen King has historically been kind of an asshole when it comes to his adaptations on screen. It's like he notoriously does not like what was the one?
The Shining.
Well, really all of them. I know I know that for a long time he kind of shit on that movie. I think he shit on most of his movies that a lot of people like. He didn't like the original It miniseries, which is amazing in my opinion. He didn't.
So maybe if he doesn't like it, it's a good sign it's good.
I would say it doesn't matter if he likes it. I mean,
Right.
Somebody else, another writer who has always kind of shit on his own stuff that has been made into movies was Tom Clancy. I mean, Tom Clancy, as great of a writer as he was and as great of a storyteller as he was an absolute prick to some of the people that made his movies. I remember, I actually have Some of All Fears on DVD, and he actually does.
Good movie.
He actually does a commentary for that movie, and he spends most of the commentary just kind of shitting on the movie.
I love that movie, by the way.
Yeah, well,
We should do a retro review of that sometime.
Yeah,
Great movie.
he spends most of his time shitting on that movie, and I'm like, well, I mean,
Why'd you even record this then?
Yeah, why'd you bother? Why not just keep your fucking
You
mouth
do
closed,
know
though?
you're getting money for every time somebody buys this
you're
or
getting
watches
paid.
it.
You're getting paid. And to top it off, most people, I mean, people have liked most of the Stephen King stuff that has been made into movies. I figured that would probably make him happy, but whatever. Nightwatch says, yes, it was The Shining that he historically did not like. I want to say there was a couple other things that he wasn't particularly fond of.
Speaking of that, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I have not. On HBO Max this month, the sequel they did a couple years back, The Sleeper or something like that, that was a sequel to The Shining where the little boy grows up.
Dr. Sleep.
That is free on HBO Max this month for the whole month.
Dr. Sleep is the name of it, yeah.
Dr. Sleep, that's it. Thank you.
But
So I'm going to be watching that this month.
yeah, and I don't think I have any good Loki stuff to bring up either, but yeah, we may as well go into kind of the final thing I wanted to talk about tonight, and that is tomorrow's upcoming release of Loki. I'll go ahead and get rid of these pictures now, since
I'm excited, and we'll be reviewing it on Thursday.
yeah, well, first off, the first two, I don't know if they're going to drop the first 2 episodes at once. The way
I heard they
did for
are, based on the
WandaVision.
articles I read from the people who in the press who got to see it ahead of time. I saw 4 articles that said, quote, the first two episodes, blah, 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 blah. So if they're seeing both episodes already, I'm hoping they drop them both.
I'm also curious, if they're dropping both of them, I'm also curious as to how long the episodes are going to be. Are we looking at like an hour or so, the way that we got Falcon and Winter Soldier, or are we looking at like half hour, 40 minutes, the way we got WandaVision? I mean, I'm not going to complain either way. I'm just happy to get them, but at the same time, I'm kind of curious. You know what I mean?
Okay, I found an article that does the runtime reveal. They're longer than the first 2 episodes of any MCU series so far. Let me find out. Read the article.
Really?
The first show consists of 9 episodes. Wait. Hold on. That was. I'm reading it. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Episode 1 clocks in at 51 minutes. Episode 2, 54 minutes.
Okay.
That's it. That puts the show clearly in the same category as the Falcon Winter Soldier for episode lengths, as well as season length. As pointed out by so-and-so, the combined 105-minute runtime of Loki's first 2 episodes is longer than the first 2 episodes of either prior MCU Disney Plus series.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, the reviews are already out for Loki, and it's killing it. I mean, the reviews are just through the roof. So I'm really excited to see what tomorrow's going to bring. Thursday's show is definitely going to be a fun one.
I had no idea, but you probably did. But they confirmed this back in 2018, so this was like a 3-year project to get here. And what I love about it is, I like. There in this one article they talk about similar-ish movies of like secret government agencies like Men in Black, and then in Hellboy I forget whatever that one he works for is. I love that they created a new agency, the TVA, that only exists in the margins of the universe that very few people know about. And the Timekeepers, I think is what it's called.
The Time Variant Agency, I think is what it's called.
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm really excited to see this new agency because I love that kind of stuff. So, like World War II secret agencies, I don't know, like spy-ish and, I think it's cool. I think it's very cool. The biggest question I have for the whole series is it seems silly, but is Thor going to be there? I wonder if he's going to do an appearance. So, but yeah.
I don't know. I really don't want a bunch of other people like coming in from the MCU.
Okay.
I don't want that. I think
I wouldn't mind that, but
I think it kind of dumbs it down, or kind of dilutes it a little bit. I mean, because one of the things that you always hear whenever any MCU movie comes out is, why didn't Iron Man come and help Spider-Man? Why didn't why didn't so and so come and help Falcon and Winter Soldier? Why didn't so and so show up here? Why didn't all the Avengers show up here? Because if you do that, then you don't really have a movie. You don't really have a product.
Now, what does it mean when they say it's part of Phase 4 of MCU? Is that good or bad, or like retracting some timeline wise, or?
No, it's just part of Phase 4. I mean, it's good now.
Okay.
It just exists in this section of the MCU. That's basically all it really means. Now, as far as what
timeline wise, where would this be then?
Well, I mean,
because they're saying it takes place after the film of Endgame. So it could be like right after that, or years after, potentially, correct?
Well, that's the funny thing about this show, is it will kind of take place all over the place, because he's working with the Time Variant Agency. So he's going to be jumping through time. There's already a lot of shit that I've heard about. I'll catch you later, Night Watch. I'll go back and watch the stuff that you did earlier today.
Good night, Night Watch.
Yeah, go check out his channel, too. I got to make sure I put an updated link to his channel in the description and stuff. But yeah, so he's really going to be able to jump through a lot of different points of the MCU. So you might, I mean, as much as I hate to even think about it,
that's where I thought a cameo might come in.
As much as I hate to think about it,
he's going back.
You might see him run into a Tony Stark. You might see him run into somebody. I don't think that it would be a significant like cameo, like they're going to fight side by side or anything. But I do think this is going to be Loki's own thing.
They are. There is confirmation a second season is in development, supposedly. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So that tells me that the end of this is not going to be like a he died kind of thing.
Yeah, that's not a surprise at all. I would imagine that there is a second season in some phase of development for WandaVision. I would imagine there's already ideas for a second season of Falcon and Winter Soldier. I would imagine there's already ideas for what could happen in a second season of Hawkeye, even though we're not going to get that till later.
You think there's an opportunity for? We talked about this before. It's maybe a squirrel offshoot moment here, but you really think they could have another season of WandaVision? Because I think they kind of shut that down, but maybe I looked at it wrong.
They could. I mean, they could do a lot of shit.
That's true.
I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to do anything? Who knows? I mean, because WandaVision ended in a way that, I mean, Agatha's still there.
Yeah.
She's under a spell. She's kind of in her own little mental prison, but she's there. Who's to say that somebody won't reach out to her and try to stir some more shit? Who's to say she won't find her way out of that little mental prison she's in and stir some more shit? And then right there,
I'm dying to know where Vision went.
Second season.
I've been still wondering where Vision went.
And that's something that could be explored in the second season. Who really? I mean, at this point, who knows? That was the biggest question that I was left with was where did White Vision go? But
I want to know what question I'll be left with at the end of Loki at this season too. I'm really excited to see where it goes.
It depends. I don't know if Loki's going to play any kind of a part in Thor: Love and Thunder. I would imagine he played some part because they just wrapped filming on Thor: Love and Thunder. So
you think it's possible at the end of this 6 episodes there's a tie-in to the movie, the new Thor movie? Like they somehow tie it in so that the timeline matches up?
Maybe. I'm leaning towards no because it's going to be a long time between when we get the last episode of Loki and when we actually see Thor: Love and Thunder. Because Thor: Love and Thunder doesn't come out until next spring. So you're looking at 6 weeks from tomorrow getting the last episode of Loki and then waiting another almost a year before we get
And in
Thor:
that
Love
time
and
they
Thunder.
could film a whole second season of Loki.
Well, no, I'm saying in that time any kind of post-credit scene or tie-in that they put in Loki is going to be long forgotten.
Well, maybe the time would be at the end of like Black Widow or another project.
Oh well, that's the thing
line.
with Black Widow. Black Widow was supposed to come out a year and a half ago. So anything that's going to be any little stinger at the end of Black Widow is also going. I mean that also had to be carefully debated, maybe even worked around after everything got delayed because of the pandemic. So so we're really just kind of waiting to see how Marvel pushes everything down the line at this point. Because
I want to know your opinion about Owen Wilson being cast as Mobius. I'm curious what you think of it.
I think he's great.
Good. I do too.
I've loved watching him in the trailers. I think it's funny. I think he's a great foil for kind of this sinister seriousness of Loki. He's just kind of goofy. He's like, oh yeah, you're always talking like this all the time. He just kind of doesn't take Loki seriously because he knows he's got Loki by the balls and Loki can't do anything without him. And that's a rare person that is in that position of superiority over Loki. I mean, even Thor, for being the god of thunder, is not always above Loki. Loki gets the best of him several times. So, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's good. And the costuming, what I have seen, I love. There was a comparison to the offices for this TVA agency to like DMV in the 80s. The outfits and the ties and the desks and the whole just the way that the rooms look. I'm looking forward to that in itself. And it's like, you're supposed to be this, all knowing, how did they word it? Is a kind of organization that exists in the margins, blah blah blah. Its objective is important. To maintain a timeline created by 3 beings known as the Timekeepers in order to prevent anomalies that will create new potentially dangerous time streams. So to me that sounds like cutting edge, futuristic, right? But then to have the contrast of it looking like a 1980s DMV office to me is fucking hilarious. It's like, what did they stop? Like they like the 80s and so they just decided to keep everything. I don't know. I don't know. What did you think of the costuming and the office looks?
I actually really liked it. It looked not steampunk. What am I thinking of? Retro in a way. Okay. Because if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. They don't. I mean, they're pretty. I mean, they're the time variant agency, and I know a little bit about them from the comic book. I don't know them very well. It's too bad Aaron's not here to maybe give you a few more details, but I mean,
Maybe it can be your Thursday.
That's just what they are.
Okay.
They're just this kind of stuck in time agency that always does what it does, and they don't necessarily need to have the super high tech facility like the Avengers campus. I mean, they could be working out of a fucking cave for all anybody knows. I mean, they're still going to do what they do. They have the ability to move around through time to do what they do. So, yeah, I like the fact that it looks like some 1980s private detective office or some shit like that. Because because they don't have to be anything other than that. They just are who they are. They go around doing their business, and for as kind of old school as they look, they are certainly on the cutting edge of everything they need to be on the cutting edge of to do what they do. But
yeah, it's almost like they're minimalists when it comes to like their own operations. But I don't know. I really liked it, and I'm very curious as to how Loki will balance having these powers, but also being constrained by whatever rules are placed on him as he's helping them in this, project. What little I've seen from the previews is like he's constantly battling that line of behaving and rebelling. Kind of like when it reminded me of Loki. I don't remember which Avengers movie it was when he went back to when he was forced to go back to Earth after Thor saw him playing their dad, and he's like, we're gonna go get dad, and before Doctor Strange picks them up, and them talking like, well, we have to go do this, and it's almost like he's like a 5-year-old who's being made to eat his fucking broccoli. Like, I don't want to do this, and he's trying to hide under the table or something. So it's very curious to me how Loki will maintain that balance as he's going through the series, staying in line so he doesn't get in trouble, but yet still being Loki.
Okay, so this is from CNET.com. What to know about Loki's timeline before the Disney Plus series.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It says, as I go to block some ads on my laptop. Briefly recap Loki's adventures. Let's take a more detailed look at his past so we can figure out where he is before his show kicks off. Who is this Loki guy? We already know who Loki is. Let's see. Team up with a Mad Titan. We already saw him do all that. Season the Asgardian throne. We saw him do all that. Rise of the Loki variant is kind of where we're at. So, in 2019's Avengers Endgame saw the heroes travel back through time to retrieve the Infinity Stones to undo Thanos' shit. We obviously saw that. That leaves us with Loki, who hasn't gone through the character development of his slain counterpart. The Disney Plus show follows this version of the character, who presumably will be meaner and more arrogant than the redeemed version who died in Infinity War after he falls into the clutches of an organization of chronological cops known as the Time Variance Authority. I call them the Time Variance Agency. It's Time Variance Authority.
Okay.
Loki's endgame escape broke reality, according to the TVA agent Mobius, and the timeline bureaucrats force him to make it right. Hopefully he'll have to grapple with the changes his OG MCU counterpart went through and figure out what kind of Loki he's going to be. Get excited, I reckon we're in for a wild ride. Makes sense.
Well, I mean, and who's the villain here? Just, we don't know who this person that they're trying to stop is. Is it possible it's Thanos, do you think?
No, I think the MCU's done with Thanos. It's possible that it doesn't make any sense to bring Thanos back. You don't want to bring him back. But I think it's possible that just kind of like the way you would do it with an old school like detective thing is that it's going to be episodic. It's going to be kind of a different bad guy or a different situation every episode. Maybe it's going to be...
Well, I have read that the reason they know there's something going on is because the agents of the TVA throughout the different timelines are being murdered, and they're trying to figure out who it is. So it's not just somebody fucking with the world, it's somebody fucking with the agency itself, maybe?
Yeah.
So that could be a whole different angle.
Yeah. So, I mean, there it is. So, I don't know. I haven't really read much about the show. I just wanted to friggin' start. But
yeah, there was something else I was going to say, but I don't want to spoil anything. But it wasn't really a spoiler. Huh?
It can't be too big of a spoil, was it?
Basically, it was saying that when they sit him down, he literally chooses between, quote, being destroyed or helping Owen Wilson's Mobius character. It's like he doesn't just get to stay in his cell. It's like they're going to kill him or put him to work.
That's interesting.
That, to me, is like the groundwork for him wanting to rebel and get away and escape, because he knows if he doesn't toe the line that he will get killed.
Well, you see, that's actually really interesting, because what that's going to mean is that for as powerful as Loki is, he's not the boss. He's not the big guy here. I mean, he's the one responsible for all the events of the first Avengers movie. He at one point had the scepter. He is the god of mischief. He's roughly as powerful as Thor, but this time cop is going to have him by the balls. So he's going to be in a very unfamiliar situation for him.
Yeah.
In THR, let's see, I'm reading the thing. I mentioned WandaVision was well respected, but some fans were disappointed by the lack of traditional superhero thrills because they didn't know what they were watching. Falcon and Winter Soldier opened with 10 solid minutes of whatever, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Loki has had an interesting journey through the MCU, evolving from a sympathetic villain, blah, blah, blah. 6-episode dramedy. It's being called a dramedy, which is great. Episodes run roughly an hour.
I can see that.
All episodes run roughly an hour, according to this report in THR.
That's good.
Begins in an alternate version of 2012, created as a result of the attempt in Avengers Endgame to retrieve the Tesseract. So we see, obviously, in Avengers Endgame, we see Loki get a hold of the Tesseract. It disappears. That's the last we've seen of Loki. He's obviously going to show up at this point. We're going to see him after he escapes from there. That's what we're going to pick it up for him. So he's going to start in 2012.
Okay, so potentially they might have had him locked up for a number of years, or they are just gonna go with that timeline.
I just think he time jumped. Like when we see him jump out of Avengers
the
Endgame,
airport.
Out of the lobby of Stark Tower in Avengers Endgame.
Okay, that's what I mean. It looked like an airport in my head.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
He forms a new timeline, earning the ire of the Time Variance Authority, an organization entrusted with protecting the sacred timeline on behalf of 3 timekeepers who ... And he goes, I don't know. He goes, I sense I may have lost you there. No, keep going. Let's make this simple or simpler. The Tesseract lets this variant of Loki exist in a timeline in which he wasn't killed, and Thor: The Dark World didn't happen. That's interesting. Frankly, we should all be so lucky. Yeah, we should all be so lucky. I don't like Thor: The Dark World. I don't think anybody does. But also one in which Thor: Ragnarok and other subsequent movies haven't happened or won't happen. To the chagrin of some powerful unseen figures, Disney accountants presumably, Loki is like a jazz musician of time villainy, and the TVA is very insistent that everybody stick to the notes written on the score. So maybe this will kind of take place in parts of like Phase 3. That's interesting.
Yeah, because I found an article that talked about what to take away from the comics that could hint at what the plot is. And there's one where he's like, quote, the agent of Asgard. And he turns to being good somehow. I don't know. It'll be interesting how to find out what happens. And especially if they're being like, they really gave us nothing about WandaVision before, during, or after about a potential season. They're letting it come out that a second season is in development. So to me, that tells me they have a lot of material.
Yeah, I mean, they'll develop a second season even if they have shitty material just to sell. I don't know.
They didn't even say anything about WandaVision being developed. Well, I don't know. Maybe I reading too much.
It's really hard to know exactly what their plans are.
Yeah.
But because again, it's not really clear if these shows they're doing on Disney Plus are just kind of things they use to push along the MCU to whatever's coming next. So are they going to be one-offs? Like stories that are long enough to tell in series form, but not big enough to tell in movie form? That's kind of what I thought Falcon and Winter Soldier was. I actually really liked WandaVision, obviously, the way they handled all that. Yes. So I wonder if this is going to be the same thing. If this is just going to be a lot of, we're just going to use these to keep pushing things along until we are finally kind of where we want to be with the movies of Phase 4. We want to go ahead and put them out, which I'm sure they probably are. I mean, they've got Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings coming out, a few months. I really don't know how Black Widow's going to fit into all this shit now, since that movie's a year and a half delayed. But I don't know. Yeah, we're just going to have to see as it all comes out. We're just going to have to see as it all comes out.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's kind of what's got everything screwed here, is like the pandemic kind of pushed everything back. So it's like we should already have Black Widow. We should already have. I mean, what was it? Was it all the Disney Plus stuff got pushed? I mean, we were supposed to get WandaVision back in the spring of last year. Ended up not getting it until this last winter.
They pushed, and then they said it was May, because remember in April we were talking about doing a review, but then they pushed it again. And now they've got it at, like what, July something is? Let me
Yeah,
look.
yeah, everything got pushed around, so it's kind of hard to figure out exactly where things fall in at this point. At this point,
Um,
I'm just gonna stop trying to figure it all out because it all got kind of screwed around. So I'm just along for the ride. It's like, but I mean,
yeah.
what are you expecting out of this? Or I mean,
Oh,
everything in Marvel is themed. What kind of theme do you expect to see from this show?
um, I like you said, a dramedy. I think it's gonna be more about understanding and developing, for at least a viewer's perspective, understanding who Loki is, why he is the way he is, maybe getting behind the curtain of why he thinks why, what motivates him in a way that we never saw in any of the previous movies. Um, it's more about understanding Loki, I think, than necessarily the plot of this, this agency and who they're hunting, blah, blah, blah. I just think it'll be fantastic on so many levels. I remember when WandaVision came out and we're reviewing it, and when they announced, or and because I didn't know Loki was down the pikes, right? Because I was kind of new to the Marvel thing because you guys were so nice to bring it to my world. But as soon as I found out, I remember turning to my husband. I'm like, I am so excited about Loki. I can't wait till June. Uh, and at the time, I could give two shits about Winter Soldier because I hadn't seen all the movies, right, that led up to, and then I was slow to warm to Winter Soldier, but by the end of it, I'm like, fuck yeah, I love it. So I went from being, low key interested in that and amped up for Loki, and now like the time has come and I'm fucking ready. I want to see it. I want to absorb it all. I'm probably gonna watch it a couple times over after it's over. I'm really amped up about this one, Frank. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it as well. The interesting thing is Loki, for as far as the villains in the MCU are concerned, has been fleshed out really way more than any of the other villains have, except for maybe Thanos, of course. But
But is he a villain? He seems like he's kind of like he's not necessarily a villain. I mean, he did try to kill Thanos.
well, I don't want to
Is
call.
there a word for somebody who's like a conflicted,
Yeah, it's called an anti-hero, but
Okay, there we go.
I don't even know if he qualifies as an anti-hero. I've always considered Hulk an anti-hero, even though he's gotten a way different treatment in the MCU. Because it's like the Hulk is not. I mean, Bruce Banner is a good guy, but the Hulk is not necessarily a good guy. It's just always the bad guys
No.
that piss him off and turn him green. So it's the bad
Yeah.
guys always getting their asses beat. So, it's he clearly starts out as a villain, and as that one article that I pointed out says, he kind of does this face turn, and by the time that we end up seeing him get snapped off by, or not snapped off, but just get his neck broke by Thanos, he has made that 180. He is totally on the side of at least Thor, if not all the Avengers, and then he gets killed by Thanos early on in Infinity War. But if this is going to be kind of reverting him back a little bit, I kind of wonder about exactly how his growth is going to progress. Does he still progress to that guy who eventually started to see things our way, or is
this an alternate timeline where he just full-fledged turns into asshole?
or is he just always going to be the god of mischief, doing crazy stupid shit, trying to take over Earth, doing whatever, fucking with Thor?
I secretly hope for the second one for interesting plot and TV.
Well, one of the funny things about him is he'll do good things, but he's always got an ulterior motive. The question with Loki is always, what's his ulterior motive? So I'm kind of curious as to see, once we get to the final episode of this thing, what his ulterior motive was for the entire series. Because, I mean, there's going to be situations where he has his own little motives, but you have to imagine that by the time we get through all of this stuff, we're going to find out that he only allowed this stuff to go on as long as it did because there was one specific thing that he was going to get out of messing with the Time Variance Authority. So, and then maybe that's going to be something that helps him take over their planet, or do whatever. Get a hold of another thing that helps him, be more powerful. Who the hell knows?
I know it's probably not likely, but do you think they're going to do a love story angle? I mean, he's never shown interest in anybody. Or there's never been someone... I mean, it'd be great to see, even if it's just a dalliance, like, somebody, I don't know, be kind of sweet and humanizing. Or is that just completely off the menu, you think?
Well, do I want to talk about this or not? We've already had this discussion on the show already once. It's like,
We have? I forgot then. I'm sorry.
okay, well, no, not about this specifically. There was an article that I read earlier, and I wasn't going to bring it up because I thought it was kind of a dumb article, but apparently the director, I forget who it is. Let me try to pull her name up.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. The gender
Yeah.
gender neutralness of Loki.
Yeah, I seriously,
That they're gonna,
my reaction when I read this article is to take my glasses off and just rub my fucking eyes because I was like, oh my god, can we have one
just
product,
a show that isn't having an agenda.
One show that just plays the character. It's like,
Yeah.
here's my whole problem with it all is, again, I don't really give a shit if a character's gay, gender fluid, blah blah blah. I've said it 100 times. If you want to identify as a tree, dress up in a ghillie suit, and stand in your front yard making tree poses from sun up to sundown, good for you. Go do it. Make yourself happy. But
Yeah.
Again, it has to work for the story. It has to work for the character. The story is not there to serve the character. The character is there to serve the story. So if you suddenly
Indeed.
force this on to us now, again, you're redefining the character that we have gotten to know for the last 10 years.
But have you watched him in the last 10 years and not seen the gender fluidity? I have.
I have not seen
Subtly.
anything.
It's not so much him. He has an effeminateness to him all along, even back then, even in the first Thor movie for me. There's something very
there's a metrosexual,
gender neutral about him.
I would say
Yeah,
metrosexual,
okay, there we go.
not gender fluid, because I know plenty of guys
Okay,
who are
I'll take it.
metrosexual and who are not gay, who are not whatever. They
Yeah.
care about skincare. It's like they care about the brand of clothes they wear. They care about their hair looking just right because that's what they're into. But,
And I don't mind it. I mean,
yeah,
I think but I don't think they need to highlight that as a part of the show because that kind of just is the vibe of Loki. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that should be a prime focus.
Here's the problem: is as far as love stories in the Marvel Cinematic Universe go, whether they're gay or straight, they've been kind of an annoyance. It's like they started to have one between Bruce and Natasha that just didn't go anywhere. I think it probably could have gone somewhere, but they just kind of abandoned it. It's like Pepper and Tony worked because I think while Tony was the superhero, Pepper really ran Tony. I mean, we all know that. Pepper, she was a strong character on her own. I think that's why that kind of worked. Thor and Natalie Portman's character, a lot of people were kind of surprised they brought her back for Thor: Love and Thunder because nobody ever liked their relationship. It's like they liked her character, but the love story between the two was always kind of obnoxious. It was
I think they should have skipped that altogether.
There's
that's
not
my
really,
opinion.
The love story between like Stephen Strange and the nurse girl, I forget her name, Amy Adams plays. It's like even that was kind of bumbling and just kind of got in the way of the story. It's like the love stories in the MCU have not worked out well. So why have any at all? I don't really care if Loki's gay. I don't care if he's non-binary, transgender.
But they don't need to highlight that as more
all.
The focus.
Who's he going to date? It's like, seriously. Who the fuck is this guy even going to date?
I'm just saying it'd be interesting no matter what they're labeling him as, if there was a potential love interest angle. I don't know. That's just me. Maybe it won't fit. Maybe it will. I just asking if you thought they would do it.
I think the only reason why the gender fluidity thing even makes a little bit of sense to me is because he's a shapeshifter. He can be whoever he wants. He could shapeshift into me. He could shapeshift into you. He could shapeshift into Natasha.
Did you watch Star Trek Deep Space Nine?
Not for a long, long time, but yeah, I've watched the show.
Okay, remember Odo? Being a true shapeshifter. I mean, he wasn't human to begin with. I mean, that kind of has the Loki vibe for me.
Yeah, I think Loki, it's more of a magic thing. For him, it was like a thing of his race of people. That was actually Renee Auberjonois who played that character in Deep Space Nine, the same one whose name you had trouble pronouncing when we were talking about MASH the other day. But, I deserve that. That was kind of Odo's thing in the show, is that he comes from a race of shapeshifters. Whereas Loki, I think it's more of a magical thing. It's just an ability that he has. I mean,
and it serves his mischief purposes, per se, not necessarily him expressing himself.
Yeah, same thing, different characters. Same ability, different characters, but to different purposes, to different ends. I mean, I don't know. I honestly,
no, it's okay.
Who the hell could Loki even date?
That's a great question.
He could meet some other god. or godlike person who can kind of run with him in
maybe
different
whoever
ways.
this quote bad guy that they're chasing is someone that could be a love interest, whether it's who knows what. But
That's possible, but I have no idea who
it
the
may
bad guy
be
is
it maybe that person helps Loki escape and they run off in the sunset to create even bigger mischief together.
Maybe.
And the second season is about catching them.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't think if they want Loki to just exist on Disney Plus, though. I think he's still huge. I think they want him in the movies. That's why I think
hope
that whatever
they do.
I think that whatever is going to happen at the end of the show is probably going to push Loki back on the big screen in some way, shape, or form. That's my idea.
Do you think that he'd get his own movie, or do you think they would just tie it into general MCU stuff?
I think if they wanted to give him his own movie, he wouldn't be getting his own show.
That's what I was thinking too.
But they would put him right out on screen. But I don't know. Again, some of this is going to serve to help push the MCU farther along down the road towards whatever's coming up in Phase 4 on the big screen. Some of it's going to be to establish Loki's presence moving forward. Some of it is going to be to introduce new things into the MCU that you're going to use either in a second season of Loki or on some other things that are going to happen on Disney+. I don't know. Like I said, in Feige, I trust. He's doing it all right. I have questions. I have concerns. But at the same time, Kevin Feige has not made a lot of missteps. And a lot of the people that are helping to create these shows and stuff like that are not making a lot of missteps. So I'm going to go with it for now. All I know is that the initial reviews from all this thing are people are blown away by the first 2 episodes. I hope they release the first 2 episodes at the same time so I can enjoy them tomorrow as soon as I wake up.
Are we going to review them both then on Thursday?
If they drop them both tomorrow, we're probably going to go ahead and do them both on Thursday. I don't see any reason why not. That's exactly how we did it with WandaVision. They released the first 2 episodes on WandaVision, and we just did the first 2. So may as well stick to it.
Yep.
I don't want to wait to do episode 2 until next week when episode 3 is dropping. You know what I mean? So we'll go ahead and just drop that. We'll drop that on Thursday. We'll talk about whatever the hell they give us for Loki on Thursday. So tomorrow, I think, it's going to be midnight California time. Midnight Pacific Coast time is usually when Disney updates all their stuff on Disney+. I am not planning on staying up till 3 in the morning my time to watch it.
I am not either.
West Coast time. I will probably watch it. I mean, if it dropped at midnight my time, I would probably consider it. But no, I'm not staying. I try not to stay up that late that night anymore. But, so I'll be watching it as soon as I get up in the morning. I'll be hitting the 55-inch TV and watching Loki. And we're going to be here Thursday. Me, Lady Cora, and my hetero life mate Jeremy is going to be
returning. Maybe Aaron.
Maybe Aaron. I'll reach out to Aaron and see if he wants to be a part of it too.
And it is cool. I just looked it up. The final episode of this season airs on July 14th. And then only a couple weeks later, maybe 3, I guess, is a Black Widow movie coming out. So that's pretty cool that they timed that right.
Yeah, that works out pretty well. It's going to be some big stuff. We also got to figure out exactly how we're going to approach shooting some of the new movie reviews now that new movies are starting to come out.
Can I talk about a couple movies I really want to see?
Talk about a couple movies you really want to see as we start to wrap this thing up.
Okay. So one I'm really looking forward to is, besides Black Widow, is this one called Reminiscent with Hugh Jackman and Tandy Newton. It'll be out in the end of August. He plays a PI and in LA, I think, and it's all about how he kind of discovers his conspiracy theory. So it kind of reminds me of like a Liam Neeson action-y movie, and I'm a Hugh Jackman fan, period. I don't know if it's going to be good or not, but I'm a big Mark Wahlberg fan. It's called Infinite. It will be out June 10th. So.
I saw the trailer for both these in the last couple of days. They both look really interesting.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. And then everybody keeps talking about the movie In the Heights. I don't know. It seems like it's just a remake of... Somebody told me it's a remake of... I forget. But anyways, the Romeo and Juliet remake from the 60s. Anyways, it looks like it's a musical. But I don't know. Everybody's talking about it. Hitman's Wife, Bodyguard. I fucking love Ryan Reynolds. It comes out in a matter of days on the 16th. Fucking looking forward to that. How can you go wrong with Samuel Jackson? And then have you heard of the movie that's coming out on Prime with Chris Pratt, The Tomorrow War, about time travel and shit?
Yes, I have. It looks really awesome.
I'm looking forward to that. That's coming out July 1st. I hope we can make time to all watch that. And, of course, Black Widow. So, There you go. They're also gonna come out with some like spin-off of like G.I. Joe that's coming out at the end of July called Snake Eyes.
That actually looks really
And
good. I'm really kind of surprised that I'm at all excited for that one because the first G.I. Joe movie I thought was kind of campy and garbage. It wasn't. It had great. It had some good scenes, but it wasn't all that great. The second
is
G.I.
Snake
Joe
Eyes
movie
the black
was
one or the
terrible.
white ninja?
Snake Eyes is the one dressed in all black. Storm Shadow is the one dressed in all white.
Okay, thank you.
I was a big fan
Cool.
of G.I. Joe growing up. I had a bunch of action figures when I was a kid. So when I saw they were making that movie, I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be so dope! It's my childhood in real life on screen." And the movie was okay. It wasn't great. A lot of cool action scenes, a lot of cameos, not a lot of substance. The second movie, they were like, "We're just gonna add The Rock," and then that movie was terrible. I hated every second of that movie. I just don't want to watch it ever again. I want to erase it from my memory. It was terrible.
And
But the
have you
Snake
ever?
Eyes movie looks interesting though.
I want to see it. It makes me want to watch the G.I. Joe movies again. I don't know how good that'll be, but it'll be good to watch it again for the background material. Have you ever seen a movie with Michael Keaton and Samuel L. Jackson in it? Because I have not. They're doing a movie together called The Protege, and it'll be out at the end of August. And it's about a hacker who mistakenly steals millions from the leader of a crime syndicate. That sounds really interesting to me.
Well, it's got Michael Keaton in it, which is interesting enough.
I'm curious who's going to be the bad guy of the crime syndicate. Is it going to be Samuel Jackson or Michael Keaton? Or maybe neither of them. So,
You know, IMDb, let me go look real quick. Michael Keaton used to have E-A. I barely can't spell Keaton anymore. IMDb used to have this thing where you could, like, put two actors' names in and it will bring up what movies they've been in together. I was looking for it a while back and I didn't see it. So I'm wondering if they got rid of it. Because I know IMDb's done a lot of stuff to change their...
Well, evidently there was some TV show that they were both on. The Graham Norton show. Like a talk show.
Oh,
where they both been on it.
Oh, yeah, that's a totally different thing.
Yeah. But anyways, I'm excited because I love both those actors. And I think it's hilarious that they're together. I'm guessing it'll be kind of funny, too. But we'll see. Maybe Samuel Jackson plays a super serious character.
So he's filming Flash. He's in Morbius, obviously. The Protege is what you're talking about. He's in a TV miniseries called Dope Sick. This is Michael Keaton, by the way. Yeah, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver or whatever. Saturday Night Live, Dumbo, which a lot of people just hated. American Assassin is the one I've been meaning to watch for the last year and a half. I just haven't had a chance to sit and I've heard that one was actually awesome.
Oh, Maggie Q's in it with them. I couldn't pinpoint her name from her face, but I was like, I know that chick.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, it was probably a talk show they were on together or something like that. Van, I haven't seen Conjuring 3 yet. I
saw that on HBO Max. It's on there for 30 days.
Yeah, that's where I saw it. I was like, do I watch it?
I haven't seen any of the Conjuring movies myself.
The problem is that Jennifer does not watch horror movies at all. So if I want to watch a horror movie to review, I have to make sure it's when she's nowhere near the house. It's if she's laying in bed on the other side of the house, she doesn't even want me to watch it then because she can hear it and it freaks her out. I'm just like, but
you need to get those headphones.
You got a gun next to the bed. It's okay. If anybody breaks in and tries to murder you, shoot him. But yeah.
Very good point.
But let's go see what some of you guys are saying in the chat. Let's see. David Capiz says, yeah, Chris, Spider-Man seems pretty interesting. Spider-Man actually does look pretty good. Let's see.
Which Spider-Man is going to be the Spider-Man in it?
I think the focus is probably going to be Tobey Maguire. I don't think we're going to see if the other two Spider-Mans are in there, I don't think they're going to figure to be huge. But I don't know.
Gotcha.
Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow are brothers. Yeah, in some of the comic books and some of the stuff they are. As I recall, in the first movie that came out, Snake Eyes was actually a kid who was stealing food from the monastery, and the younger version of Storm Shadow catches him, and he ends up bringing him into the fold and turning him into a ninja and learning with him, and that's how they started. So they were brothers, but not biological brothers. But yeah, there's been a couple different storylines in the comics and the cartoons and stuff like that where they are actually like blood brothers. So Yeah, I don't know how they're going
Yeah.
to approach that in this upcoming movie. This upcoming movie for Snake Eyes is supposed to be from what I've heard, it's supposed to be a kind of like a reboot of the whole G.I. Joe thing. They're going to actually try to do a couple of standalone things and then combine it into another G.I. Joe kind of mashup movie a la the Avengers. That's what I've read.
Nice.
Whether they actually make it that far or not, I mean, a lot of it's. I mean, let's work on getting Snake Eyes right. If they get Snake Eyes right, then I'll say okay, I'll go watch the next movie. But if they throw me another stinker up there like G.I. Joe 2, then no, I'm done. I'm not into it anymore. Let's see. Chris Skywalker said he liked the trailer at least from Snake Eyes. Yeah, the trailer was awesome. The trailer looked phenomenal. I'm really excited
I
to see
haven't
it.
seen it yet, but I want to see the movie.
Yeah, the trailer looked fantastic. I'm really excited about the trailer. Let's see what else is going on. Let's see. Black Widow, Conjuring 3, and the new Indiana Jones movie is what Chris Skywalker is looking forward to seeing. Yeah, I mean, I'm with all those. Let's see. Natalie Portman is a babe. Schwing, says Chris Skywalker. Damn right. Hey, she is hot. That's true. Let's see. Some people coming in. TSS popping in. David's back in. What's going on, guys? Yeah, thanks all you guys. Nightwatch had to dip out. I know he was probably getting ready to go to work. But, yeah, he said, by the way, watch Snakes on a Plane on cable when it is censored. When he says, I've had it with these Monday through Friday snakes and this Monday through Friday plane, I laughed so hard I almost cried. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I just stopped watching television. It's like I can't do it. You know, funny story. My ex-wife, she loves the movie Grease, as do I. And I went and right after we had gotten together, I went and bought the 25th anniversary edition on DVD. And she had now the version that she had on VHS was actually recorded from TBS years earlier. So the one that she grew up watching, that she had watched the most recently,
was edited and
for
such?
TV. She did not understand that the lyrics of the song are actually quite racy for 1980 or 1979, 1980 when the movie came out. So when he's singing Grease Lightning and he says, "You know it ain't no shit, women give lots of tit," she had never ever heard those lyrics before. So I put the DVD in when I bought it. We were watching it, and one day, and she's hearing these lyrics. She goes, "I've never ever heard that before." And I'm like, "Well, why the hell not?" Come to find out that she had always watched one that was recorded from TBS, so it had been pretty heavily edited. And I was like, "There's some pretty crazy, pretty aggressive grown up dialogue in that movie if you listen close enough." But yeah, it's pretty funny what the big difference that can be made between something on television and something on the way it's supposed to be seen on DVD or whatever. He said, Chris Skywalker says, yeah, televised movies suck. They do. And a lot of time, I mean, look, you don't have to swear a lot in a movie, but sometimes dropping the perfectly timed F-bomb or telling someone to suck your dick or whatever, it's not necessarily about the swearing, it's about the aggressiveness of the dialogue. I mean, a lot of people don't realize when you write stuff out, you're writing this dialogue out. You are picking and choosing those words carefully, so you're not just saying it for shock value. You're saying it because you're trying to convey a certain point, and you kind of lose that a lot when you listen to some of these really dialogue-heavy movies when you watch them on television. Like when you start like those obvious cuts in the dialogue and in the audio where they're trying to cut out the F word and whatever. It kind of throws you off a little bit and takes you out of the movie a little bit. So that's one of the reasons why I stopped watching movies on TV at all.
Yeah, I get frustrated too because the commercials, even if you're fast forwarding, like that pause, that break, it's like you lose the momentum of watching the movie.
Yeah. That's why when I say it takes me out of the movie for a minute, it's like it does trip something in my brain where I'm like, stop. I have to get back into it now. And I have to take a couple of seconds to kind of gather my wits to get back into it. Chris Skywalker says Grease came out in 1978. That sounds about right. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap things up. Thank you to Melissa Zahler again for subscribing to the channel. We hope you like what we give you. Thanks again to Really Mysterious for his donation, of course. Not a fan of Harrison Ford, but hey, you can be wrong. You're wrong about a lot of stuff, but we still love you. And that's pretty much all we've got. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Jeremy will be here on Thursday. We will be watching 1 or 2 episodes of Loki tomorrow when it drops. We'll be back here Thursday, probably about 8:15 or so. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't get started at more normal time to break down everything that we see. Again, it's being reviewed very, very well, so there's probably going to be a lot of good things that you're going to hear from us as we break down Loki on Thursday. And until next time...
Hope you enjoy it too if you watch it.
Absolutely. Until next time, adios.